Hello everybody, welcome back to Destiny 2, and in today's video I'm going to be going over the most overpowered broken Warlock build like I have ever used. This is ridiculous. I'm going to be running this day one. I think so. It is absolutely nuts. I'm just going to go right here. If you don't care about my explanation for everything, here is the build. Obviously some things I'll be explaining, and obviously my stats aren't the best right now, so I've got some weird mods on there for stats, but that is the build. Here are the weapons I'm running. So if that's all you care about, here you go. But if you want to hear my explanation of why I use everything and why it's good, stick around. So getting into first the subclass, we're obviously on Well of Radiance Warlock using Empowering Rift. So when we put those down and we get damage inside one of those or our Well of Radiance, we get grenade energy, because we're using Starfire Protocol, so we can spam fusion nades. Quick note, this build for the most part works even without Starfire Protocol. You can swap this and use like any of the boots, any helmet you want. I'm just using this because fusion nades are super strong. All you would have to change is obviously if you don't want to use fusion nades, and then like most likely this if you're gonna be using something like healing nades, but or the firebolt grenades, because they got some artifact mods. But I am using the fusion build, so we're just going to stick to that for today's video. So yeah, I'm using either melee works. I like Incinerator, Snap. It's really easy to stun Unstoppables now for this season, or excuse me, just in general now. I'm using Touch of Flame, so our fusion nades detonate twice. Using Icarus Dash because I think it's more useful than Heat Rises inside of PvP, or excuse me, in PvE. In terms of fragments, I'm using the Ember of Resolve, which is the new one. So Solar Grenade, Final Blows, Cure You. It says Solar Grenade, which is a type of grenade right here, but it means any Solar Grenade, so it works with fusions. I'm using Ember of Torches, which powered melee attacks, not kills, against combatants, makes you and nearby allies radiant. So we get a damage buff. I'm using Ember of Empyrean, so Solar Weapon or Ability Final Blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied to you. I'm not using any solar weapons for this, but that would buff, our fusion grenades do extend that, and we will be throwing a lot of those. And then lastly, Ember of Ashes, you apply more scorch stacks to targets. So obviously with fusion grenades, we're scorching them, and then that will cause an ignition, so they start burning more, which is nice. So that is our subclass. In terms of weapons, I am using Wither Horde just because it's really good to, if you're sitting in your well, or Empowering Rift, having the tick damage is really good for their grenades. Though if for like DPS and stuff, you can swap to like Izzy. I'm using the Ikelos SMG from last season with Volt Shot, as well as the Hothead. So these, along with some of the mods here, is where you can change things. So if you're using Hothead, you might want to pair your heavy weapon and primary weapon, or if you're using like Forbearance or something, you want to pair these to be the same element. Otherwise, you're gonna be spreading yourself pretty thin in terms of mods. Because like before I was running this, so like obviously getting Radiant is a lot easier than just chucking nades. But I would have to move my mods around for that. So I ended up using the same same element for both of these. So that's what I would recommend personally, but to each their own. Or if you don't care, there are other ways to get the armor charge, which is why we're doing this. So you don't have to do this if you're reliably getting armor charges with, like, say your grenades, because we're using firepower. So you don't have to do that, but I do this just so I have armor charge up all the time, and then we also get a damage buff for on top of Radiant for this. Speaking of all that, I know that was a bit confusing. Our armor mods, so on the helmet, we are running Arc Siphon, Ashes to Asset, and Solar Siphon, which actually we don't need to run anymore because we're not using a solar weapon. So I would probably do Oh wait, we don't have one of those. I actually don't know what to run for this last one. You might have an extra slot, and I actually might do something with my, what's it called, my stat here. But anyway, so I'm using Arc Siphon. So rapid arc weapon final blows create an orb of power, and Ashes the asset, so gains super energy on grenade kills. This is really good because orbs of power are how you activate the armor charge system now. So this is a really easy way of doing that on top of what we have on our gloves, 2 fire powers. So yeah, so your grenade final blows create an orb of power, so that is another way to get orb of powers. I'm also using momentum transfer. Wow. Causing damage with the grenade reduces your melee cooldown. So we're getting a lot of grenade kills, or like a lot of grenade energy. We have very consistent ways of getting grenade energy. With our empowering rift, so you just plop one of those down if you need grenades, put down a wither horde, get a grenade back, throw one of those grenades, you get your, what's it called, back, you get your rift back, and then you just get all your grenades back, right, because you're sitting in that rift, and you can pop down another rift infinitely. So anytime we do any damage with grenades, I want it to reduce the cooldown for our melee, because our melee can stun, as well as apply our radiant. On the Starfire protocol, so fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowering weapon damage. Fusion grenade kills grant rift energy. I don't know, it just gives you the rift back. Like one grenade kill will just give you the rift. On here, I'm running resistances. So in this case right now, I'm using harmonic resistance for solar damage, and then arc, as well as charged up increases the maximum number of stacks of armor charge you can carry by 1. So this will go from the 3 that I have to 4, and if you put on 2 more, it'd be 5 and then 6. I think 4 is fine, as you'll come to see. On our boots, I'm running stacks on stacks, so picking up a orb of power grants you 1 additional stack, so it's 2. So if you pick up 2 orbs, it's 4. Then the big thing about this build, so arc weapon surge, so collecting overpower gives you 1 temporary armor charge, but in our case it's 2. Your arc weapons gain a small bonus to damage while you have any armor charge. Your armor charge now decays over time, so you get even more damage if you put, like, let's say I put on another one, so like if I did this and then put on another one, I'd have even more and even longer, and I actually might do that even though my stat goes down. So you get even more damage here. So this is really, really good, and this is why I said you want to maybe pair these if you're doing the weapon route to creating orbs of power. I might change this up a little bit since firepower is so strong and you have so many grenades. You may not need to have the siphon, but you will have basically 100% uptime with this, because you'll just be generating tons of orbs of power, and each one, at least with one and with one of the arc weapon surges and time dilation, which is what we have on our bond here, and then the other ones are just kind of up to you. Just don't use any of the gold ones because it will overwrite your weapon surge. But you'll have basically 100% uptime because you kill 2 enemies, you get an orb of power, which gives you the armor charges, and each one of them, at least with one of the arc weapon surges with time dilation, is a 15-second buff, and when one of those runs out, it goes to the next one, which is another 15. So two armor charges, which we get from 1 orb, will give us 30 seconds of a damage boost on top of radiant. Which is nuts. So if we have 4, that is a minute of damage, which you can constantly refund every time you get a kill. So you basically have full uptime on a damage buff for like your primary and your heavy, if you pair them together. Or obviously depending on, if you go a different route with these, it will just be one or the other. But I would definitely pair it with your heavy though. You want like in my case, I'm using the hothead arc. You want arc surge because you want it to match your heavy, so you do extra damage with your heavy for boss damage and stuff. But this build is absolutely nuts. You constantly have damage increases. You have healing with your grenades. You have crowd control. It is the perfect build. It is insane. I just need to get my stats to look better here. I just need some better armor for it, and I'm basically set. So that is it for the build here, guys. Definitely use this. I know I went really fast and rambled quite a bit, but you definitely want to use this. It is unbelievably strong. There's a version of it I use on my Solar Titan as well that I might make a build for, where you get your super a lot with that build. You get your super a lot with this build too. You like with the new Orb of Power changes, you're just constantly getting your super, so it's super nice. But this build can only get better for me because my stats are kind of poopy. But it is absolutely busted, and I definitely recommend that people try this out, because it is beyond good. So thank you for coming and watching. I hope you guys try out the build one last time here. Here is the build in all its glory, after changing it up a little bit. There we go. But yeah, definitely do this. The damage rotation's really easy. Just if you got this roll with auto loading, fire a rocket, swap to your Wither Horde, shoot a Wither Horde, grenade, swap to, whatever, swap back to this, shoot this, grenade, swap back, and you just swap and swap. With Izzy, it's a little bit different. You fire one of these, you fire your Izzy, you reload your Izzy, swap to this, fire, shoot, Izzy, reload, fire this, and then, work grenades in there if you really need to. But yeah, it is unbelievably busted. I'm going to be running this for basically everything. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and you give this build a go. Peace.